It's here. It's finally here. It is the Spectre. And man, does this look tiny. That looks great. This looks like it might be detachable, and I think that's why this spring is here to kind of push this down. I'm going to go ahead and get this installed. We've got 16 gauge wiring, and then the little gate wires that look like they go to the Deans itself. And we also have a little conversion here if need be. That's interesting. I just think that everyone should just go to Dean's. You know, I don't know what's going on with that, but okay. And a screw. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed. Wow, that switch is very easy to press. Here's the back side of it. Wow. And the way this is soldered is pretty nicely done. It's soldered in 4 places right there to hold that together. That is very nicely done. Quite impressed. Now to go over the things inside the manual, there is something I definitely look forward to. The installation here is a little awkward. The red line comes down through the back and the black comes up and down this way, which means that your motor is in backwards, but it won't matter because you're matching the negative and positive wires in the right positions. So precautions here: do not push the selector switches on the back of the circuit board in the wrong direction. Always keep the sector gears cutoff cam greased to minimize wear of the cycle detection switch. Now there's going to be no cutoff, so no cutoff lever. This is going to cut off on the bottom of the sector gears cam piece, so that's going to be interesting for sure. So optional, it says the anti-reversal latch can be removed, but will require braking to be enabled and pre-cocking disabled. It's also for use with the AS hop-up. So sensor and bolt catch system. Simply connect them to the white connector on the circuit board, which must be in that area. Fire at least 1 BB, or actually let's say whenever the battery is reconnected, fire at least 1 BB or press the bolt catch in order to activate the ammo sensing functions. To disable, simply disconnect the hop-up and bolt catch and reconnect the battery. So this is where the extended screw is going to go. Very interesting for sure. Let's go ahead and open this up here. And look at the modes here. Wow, the thing that I'm very impressed with is the digital fuse here. The digital fuse. And we've got disabled, which I don't know why anybody would want to disable. Maybe they want to set their own fuse. Go higher than 60, I guess. Maybe lower than 20, not sure. 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Very, very impressive. Motor braking, we've got disabled, light braking, medium braking, and max braking. That is very impressive. And the LiPo monitoring, this is just on the voltage, I believe. Look at that, 2-cell or 3-cell, and even up to 4-cell. Wow. So we definitely can, looks like we can use more than 11.1 volt battery. Here's the firing modes, so everybody can see there. Rate of fire control. don't really use this on the MRF either, so pre-cocking, we don't have this on the MRF, we don't have this on the MRF. So we have some of these options we don't have either. So we have this, that we only have max braking or not. And we have this, but you only can go up to 11.1 that I know of as a maximum for the MRF and gate type MOSFETs. So this is just great. Pre-cocking here. Wow, I'm very impressed already. The most impressive thing to me in this is I like having protection, and the fact you can set up your amperage very easily makes this much smaller. There's not much to this. This is very impressive. I just have to say, you've got 4 wires going in, but you shouldn't have a problem putting this in the gearbox. So they have some examples, factory reset, and then how to set it up too. Now, I did some reading on this, and it's basically everything that I just showed. When installing, we are going to hand test. I hand test everything I do, but it says even in the book to hand test this. And it looks like even if the sector gear does come backwards, maybe from anti-reversal latch release or something similar to that, maybe a blowout, I'm not sure, with the anti-reversal latch, it can come back and snap this easily without breaking it. So you can see, you can hear it, moving. I'm just barely touching that. So let's go ahead and get this installed. So this is the VFC gearbox I'm going to use with a combat machine external body. This is the M16 type. So I'm going to go ahead and just install this and go through tests with it. I wanted to show how small it actually is. Here is a NanoAB, yeah, that's what it's called, NanoAB MOSFET. And just look at the size comparison. I mean, this is getting very close to the size of this. So, and this has cycle completion. So what that means is, because it has this little detection right here, when this is slapped, it's going to stop not during mid-cycle. With this doesn't have that. You tell this when to stop mechanically. The mechanical process is through this right here. It's almost electronic because there is programming within this thing to tell it when to stop. It's going to wait until the cycle is done. So we're going to go ahead and install this thing. I'm just going to start popping out some stuff here. We've got some G&G gears, some old G&G wiring. Set that aside. Set this aside. And just start taking out these pieces. Now, great thing about this is we are getting rid of the issues that are created mechanically with the cutoff lever, the sector gear, and the trolley and the trigger here. So we need to take out the safety lever as well. And I need to have I need to hold on to that just in case. I need to have a selector plate with a metal contact. That's something you must have in the setup. Just moving parts here. Okay. Parts I don't use are going to go to the side. So how does this work on safety here? It's electronical, so the little switches on the back of this board are going to be hit by the selector plate. Let's go ahead and just take everything out. It's been pre-greased and pre-used for a while. And I looked at the back of the sector gear. There's quite a bit of grease still, so I'm not going to grease the actual thing right here, because the grease there is going to get on there. So and then go ahead and lift this out very carefully so it doesn't shoot off. Okay, so we have to take this out even. Now install a selector plate with and you know what, we're not going to have to make any modifications to this selector plate, because we just need one that has metal contact and presses enough to touch the selector switches on this. Alright, so we have, this is a GMP selector plate. Now these can break very easily within this area. It's just too thin, and this is not the best material, so you have to be very careful with these on the GMP ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and install this first. This one's a little different than G&G here, so I think this goes in. I think this goes in first. Or it just slides like that. Some selector plates slide in a little different, it just depends. Okay, so this seems to evenly flat right here, so this should work for testing. Alright, so go ahead and turn this over. And drop this in very carefully. While installing, you will want to be careful that your wires come up too high right here. You cannot put the pin in through the external body. You can see that right there in the gearbox shell. The wires are coming up too high, so you want to be careful of that. Okay, something else that's cool is this is somewhat modular. You can just pull this up, and you want to be a little delicate because these pins, they're very tiny. But if you need access to solder, you have access to solder, which is kind of really in a cool way, and you can see all the work down there. That's really nicely done, I have to say. So if you pull this out, you now have access to see your trigger hitting this properly, and it is hitting it properly. So also what stops it is the part of the board. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back on there. Under close investigation of looking how it hits it, it barely taps it. Does a great job of not making extra wear. Just go ahead and screw it in place. Do not over tighten, of course. Alright, so we're going to have an issue with the trigger if we're not careful. This was the trigger I was using. This is the previous trigger I've been using for. I thought that this had to go in further. It seems to tap within this area here and here, but that's not an issue. It does not actually have to push that micro switch all the way down in there. It does not have to do that. If it touches 2 right here, that will count as a trigger pull. So let me go ahead and install this, and then I will point it out, the trigger pull. Alright, so the way I do this is different. Some people like to push in the red wires first. I'm pushing in this black wire simply because it's bigger, and I want the red wires to go above it. So the previous work I did was shave down the shell in the 4 areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here you have to be careful because it can clip down on this depending on your shell. This is a VFC shell. So if you have reinforcement, you may want to watch out, be careful. Okay, so I've got this pressed down. Now what I do here is I push the wire up a little bit to give a little bit of space. Push down, and then go ahead and do the next wire. Now you can do these together, but I prefer to do these separately, simply because I can get it in position first, and then press it down throughout. And then go ahead and do the next wire. And press it down. Okay, now we can see that I have plenty of space here if the motor comes up. Great. Okay, so from this point we're going to do the bigger wire. Now you want to make sure you press it up just slightly here and then down into. And try not to clip anything. Now it won't push down and stay, so what you're going to have to do is just hold it there for a moment. This wiring comes back this way. Okay, and then grab your red wire here and come back through here. Just push that down. And you can see here that it is installed in position. Alright, you're going to want to check your sector gear here. Go ahead and put it in there. Make sure you don't press down and break the detection. So you want to slide down. There we go. And it seems to get really hard right at, well, not really hard, but seems to something happens right at this point. If you look from this bottom left side, you position the gearbox shell like this, looking at it. Right here, you can actually see as you rotate that it touches that detection little lever thing very easily. And the good thing is it can go backwards, no problem, so you're not going to have anything snagging or breaking there. And you can see that the one thing I do not like about this, because I'm used to the Murph, is that I do not like the thick wiring. I wish this setup had the wires come out and go somewhere in the body. I can change that myself, but I don't plan to keep this setup in here, so we're just going to work with it. I'm going to go ahead and drop down in the spur gear and the anti-reversal latch. And of course it is not properly set up here. Spring decided to move by itself, so you got to be careful of that. Okay, so we got the anti-reversal latch in there. Let's go ahead and rotate this in place. I'm going to need you out of my way. Okay, what might help is to move this onto the table. That helps a little bit. Okay, let's get the trigger ready here. Sector gear ready. Make Make sure it's in there. You don't want to crush the shell. And it's definitely in there. Rotate it until it's in a good position. That's good right there. Alright, now we're going to use the tapper plate. Normally people do not use the tapper plate. Well, actually I don't really need to use the tapper plate, but so we're just going to step that out. We just need to see where this gear stops. Okay, so I do like that there's no safety lever, there is no trolley. This is going to be easier holding down the trigger. Go ahead and set this on top here, push it down in place, and look at that. I was able to get it, it looks like in one, yep. And no wires are being crushed, no wires are being pressed too tight. Everything looks good here. Okay, so go ahead and close her up. Right now we only need 3 screws. Again, looking at the camera. Okay, so now I can just go ahead and rush through this and get this installed. Alright, you want to check your work, make sure that there is plenty of room right here at the port. See, now I pushed it down, you can't see the wires at all, so great there. Okay, on the back side you can see the selector plate. Check your tape if you are using tape, which I am, so you've got to move this tape onto here. Another thing to note is not to push the selector plate the opposite way, because that's how you break those little switches. So, alright, so we've got this hooked up here. Go ahead and feed it through. And feed through here. And the great thing about the Spectre is there is no motor, or no terminals, no screw-in terminals. So this is just great. I like that setup without the screw-in terminals. Okay, so when you get to this point, you will want to take your screwdriver and just do this so that you're not getting the tape removed. Okay, once you got it in position, go ahead and push in that. This point. And I've heat shrinked the ends of this wiring just simply because it got exposed very easily. The motor plate is sharp, and I've also put electrical tape on that, simply because it's just sharp. It started cutting into the motor terminal, or the motor connectors, very easily. I think the first trigger pull, and then after I opened it, I noticed it did already, which goes to tell you that that's how fast and how sharp this easily damaged that. So another reason that happened is because this wiring is too long for my setup. And if I'm going to talk about that, it's because it's universal. There's nothing you can do about that. You could cut it yourself though, but like I said, I'm not planning on keeping this in here, so I don't want to cut it. I want to leave it alone in case that the next setup it may need to be like that. So alright, let's go ahead and drop the motor in. Black at the front, red at the rear. And now we should get a great response, because last time it just would not continue with that Lonix motor. So wait, before you push it down, make sure that you can see all the way through, which I can. That's just one thing you want to note. Okay. And you can see here I'm having an issue because it is so long. It seems the red wire got twisted while I was doing this. I see that because it's the way it's turning. It's not supposed to be turning like that. There we go. Being too long has its faults, so when I do these wired things like this, I usually cut them perfectly so you don't have any issue. That's just something you're just going to have to deal with. So, alright, so look, it is done. It is in there. Okay. Go ahead and close it up, and be careful not to strip out any of the wiring. Okay, I got it down in there. Okay, nice and flush, good. Alright, go ahead and hook up the battery. And test it. Okay, switch to full auto. Yeah, I think it was my Lonix motor. I would start and then nothing would happen after, and if I turned the pinion, like I said, it would work. So I pushed the trigger all the way down, and you can see the trigger pull is nice. On safe, nothing happens because it's electrical selector plate. And this sounds very well. It sounds great. So what we're going to do here now is get the instructions and turn on active braking. We want to see where it stops in the cycle inside the gearbox. See if it works the way it's supposed to, intended for use where at the front. So what we're going to do here is hold the trigger. To enter programming mode, connect the battery while holding down the trigger and the motor will buzz 4 times if successful. So we want to get into motor braking. We're going to hit the trigger 3 times, I think. Okay, so we're going to hit 3 times, and then when we get in there, we need to hit 4 times. So 3 and then 4. And then just pull the battery. That's what it looks like. Okay, so holding the trigger on safety I think should work, but let's go ahead and test. I'm going to hope if I just have some room here. Okay, it seems that maybe I have to be in some kind of mode first. Okay, so I'm going to hold the trigger again. Okay, so I'm in full auto mode right now. Hold the trigger. Okay, Now we want to do number of trigger presses 3. Okay. Alright, it buzzed, we waited. Now we want to go 4. Wait 3 seconds. Okay, now disconnect the battery. And it should be pre-programmed. Alright, so we just hook this back up. And now, oh yeah, baby. Okay, so let's go to full or semi. Alright, so I want to do a comparison with my DSG and the NanoAB, which would be more like close to a MRF, through Gate, the Gate company, and I think this was one of the best MOSFETs I've had. Now, simply I'm going to show between the two here to see how this is mechanical. So if this is copied, then we know the other one is going to leave the piston forward. So this is what we're going to do here. We're going to test this. Now, the great thing about the Spectre is that it has its own digital fuse, and you can pick between the numbers here. This one you cannot. This is, from what my understanding, would be 160 amp fuse. So if you're using something underneath that, you could hurt your battery if there's a short. So usually want to use a big battery for this type of setup. So I've hooked up my own fuse just for testing. I'm going to move everything here. So we've already got an extra plus on the Spectre board. Mechanically, I've had to do the trigger modifications here myself. This used to have a micro switch, and I've put in my own modifications here to make this function very well, very smooth. But however, again, the Spectre in this one is proven to be much better. So we're going to go ahead and get this hooked up with a battery. And I want you to pay very close attention to where the sector gear stops. Okay, so we're going to be in semi mode right now. Make sure we don't have any wires getting in there. Okay, so it looks like it's mid-cycled. However, I know from my experience, once you put the spring and the piston in there, it stops near the front. And I wanted to show how the trigger is very nice flowing and everything there. So now to compare with the other. I don't know if you've noticed, in the previous gearbox I just showed, the active braking on there is really good. However, it's more mechanical. This is mechanical and electrical because of programming in here. That over there, if you watch it, it stops about the same place. I'm going to say about 90 to 95%, almost the exact place. This is going to blow your mind right now. This is on max braking. Okay? So we're going to hook this up. Alright. And notice where the gear stops. So if it does stop mid-cycle, we know it's going to be at the front. Okay, I had to, I guess, set it up first. So we see here, it is in mid-cycle. So that would be at the front. Now watch closely, and I mean very closely. Installing this is like installing a hair trigger mod without all the headaches. Very easy. It is an extra plus here. Also, the sector gear. stops in 100% the exact spot every time, even with full auto. So, what does this mean? This means this is well worth its money. No mechanical lockups for the trigger and the selector. This is way up there. I mean, this gets you a 5 out of 5 on this board. This is how nice this is, having all these things. Now I'm going to go ahead and assemble this just to show where the piston is, and then check with the screwdriver, and we're going to confirm how much of a great stop it does have. Already I am very, very, very blown away from this, so I have to say it has shocked me. So we're going to go ahead and put this together. This will be the first time I have put this completely together. I've only been looking at the settings and messing with the manual, and I have to say, you know, this is just great. Great, great, great. Okay, we are ready to try this out. I want to show that with the M16, this is perfect. You've got a nice long wire, leaves plenty of room inside to put your big battery. However, this doesn't really fit. It's just the way it is. This is too fat. Okay, so moving on, what I have done is taped this so I know where the front of the piston is exactly. And I want to say this was very difficult for me to put together. And the reason for this is because the wiring just would not stay in place. 16 gauge wiring is perfect, but you have 2 gate wires that come in through here all the way to the back. And they look to be 22 gauge, I'm guessing. Really small, but all of it's like pressed down in place, and that makes it difficult. I had to actually use tools to hold down the wiring for me because it's too loosely. Maybe there could be something made to hold the wiring a little bit, just a little plastic spacer presses it in, I don't know. I could have probably done some kind of modification myself, but it is done. And of course, if you're going to install this, you're going to probably watch this video or go through professional help. So have somebody else professionally install it. Now you see I didn't put the pin in this because I didn't want to mess with the wiring, and I just had it all set up. And we're going to go ahead and fire this. So hook up the battery. And we're going to watch where the piston ends up. Okay, so safety, no fire, semi. It's going to have to set itself, so it may not exactly end up at the front right now. I have to say, this is already blowing me away. Very quick, in response, just done. Okay, so let's check and see where it actually is. And it looks like it's at the front here. That is very impressive. So let's do full auto. Every time the tap-up plate seems to be in the exact same spot. Again, exact same spot. So, what do I have to rule on this? What can I say? you don't even have to worry about switching to semi-auto on this. This is preset. You just use it. You don't even have to do that. Like with the full AEG, because it's randomly stopping, you don't know where it's going to be, so you'd have to shoot in semi-auto. But this, you're not going to. This is perfect. This is easily 5 out of 5 for me. Let me back up the camera here. This is going to be a 5 out of 5. Why? You can just see it performs very good. This is above and beyond for me. This is so great to have. However, I'm not keeping this. I'm passing this on. So Zard Ichar, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I'm going to link his channel up here. I'm passing this on to him. Okay? Very nice thing to do. Just going to do it. I don't have a real use for this myself. This is beta. I would like to get the actual done edition at some point, but this is just beyond great. And you know, you could drop this into any AEG version 2 right now. There will be a version 3 from my understanding. I'm not sure what other versions there will be, but very great. So I give this a 5 out of 5 simply because, you know, it's over the top. And great job, Black Talon Concepts. Thank you for letting me review this, and thank you for sending me one. Very appreciative, and this is just great. So if you have one of these, it's just perfect. I mean, you're going to be using this, you're going to have performance, reliability. You're just not going to have the technical issues you might have with the trigger. So this is something you definitely would want in the long run. It will make your AEG very great. Very great. That's what this is. This is not just good, this is great. Thank you.